Hey, everybody, Chad Eaves here with part two of our discussion of communication at the movie about F1 the movie. So buckle up, put on your crash helmet, and let's get going with the second part that we're going to be talking about healthy communication and specifically feedback. And the way that this script and the story was structured, I said this in the previous video, and I say this, I'll say this in the following videos is it's such good writing. And there are so many examples of being able to identify when it comes to communication concepts and strategies and practices. In the healthy communication aspect, and the feedback in particular, is a really big part of this. What makes up healthy communication? It's a legitimate question. And my take on this is communication that's accurate, it's genuine, and it's focused on achieving a desired outcome. Now, in this situation with the team, with Rubin's team, played by Javier Bardem, the desired outcome is to win a race, to save the team. So he doesn't have to sell it, doesn't lose his shirt, people don't lose their jobs. That's the desired outcome. And this is like top of mind all the way through the movie. And it's what's driving all of the actions, decisions, and communications for the most part, aside from typical tensions and stuff like that you have on an interpersonal level, which we see play out throughout the movie. Always keeping that desired outcome in mind is critical because when you have communications that are about that, that focus on achieving that desired outcome, that are accurate and that are genuine, you're working towards the same thing. You're not falling into pity fights, so much personality conflicts as much. You're staying focused on what you're doing. In this movie, one of the things that really demonstrates it so well is feedback. And when we think about that, a lot of times it's from the top down, is when we see this happening. But in this movie, we see it happening all over the place. We happen to see it happening top down. We see peer feedback. We see junior to more senior feedback, which is really difficult thing to achieve, especially when you have a lot of stress like this team is experiencing. But it can be overcome by professionalism, by focusing on that desired outcome and working towards these common goals while also achieving what people need on an individual level. We'll touch on that in a couple of videos. But it is a tour de force when it comes to feedback. We see this. We see this in the conversation with when Reuben first goes to recruit Sonny at a restaurant in Daytona, and he's telling him what's the situation is, what the financial situation and what the risks of the team is, and Sonny's giving him feedback like on like am I the right person? Is this the right thing? You don't know that it's for me. But also Ruben's able to kind of do the counter feedback in this situation of, you know, yes, you have these flaws, for lack of a better term. And he even calls them out. You're washed up, you're a gambler, never achieved anything. But Ruben comes in with the statement of what I see though is potential. This also bleeds into the mentoring aspect, which we're going to talk about in the next video. But it's also feedback, and they're tied at the hip. And he kind of extends that conversation with what he can do, what his potential is, and you'll see these two give each other's feedback and conversation throughout the entire movie. Not always in the most comfortable situation, but when it's genuine, accurate, and focused on that desired outcome, you can overcome the discomfort, long as it's coming from a place of good intent and focused on that desired outcome. There's a scene, part of it's been in the trailers, where Kate, the technical director, and Sonny, the Brad Pitt character, have a meeting in a pub over a beer. And he's got some ideas as far as how he wants the car to be. And this is a factor that we're going to touch on here next in a second. Um, but also, she has feedback back for him. And a lot of times in these situations, it's a it's these two tensions that are playing against each other. Communication in general is the struggle between clarity and chaos. And how do you edge more towards clarity than you stay floundering in chaos is a huge part of how we communicate, including healthy communication. And as Brad Pitt is sharing some of the things that he wants to see in the car and in the team, Kate also shares, you know what, you finish a race first. You do that, and then I'll take your feedback, essentially. You have to like meet this, you have to meet this prerequisite. Now, at the same time, Brad Pitt's character is giving the feedback of, I need a car that can win. And this is where the one line in the trailers come out is, I need a car built for combat. And this is a mindset change that he's beginning to instill in the organization, because this organization's been around, meaning the F1 team, it's been around for 2.5 seasons and hasn't even won a point, has never placed higher than 11th. And they've got to get a win in. And it's this communication, this feedback on the car, on the status of the car. So we're having these trading feedback, session here, and people are kind of staking out where their boundaries are, what they're looking for in their colleague, as far as to take that feedback, apply that feedback, how it's valued. And this is a very important establishment of the relationship, and how the communication is going to go forward in that relationship as well. In the combat theme, you're going to see evolve throughout the movie. This is not a one and done. It's not just in the trailer. It becomes integral to the story and how it plays out. Next, I'd like to talk about the chief mechanic, Dodge. And he's got this role of, he's the experienced team member. He's a senior team member. He has gravitas. He's able to make comments and observations that people aren't going to challenge by virtue of who and what he is. And this includes the rookie, Joshua Pierce. And they get to the track one day, and Brad Pitt's character's already there. And Joshua's like, what time did he get there? And the chief mechanic, Dodge, is like, he was here before I was here. The statement meaning he's been here early, he's committed. And then he makes the other statement, which you're not sure if Joshua hears. Dodge then says, before you were here. And these are observations meant to point out to Joshua, like, hey, this guy's for real. This guy's committed. Don't just dismiss him. There's another scene with the feedback where Joshua and Sonny walk into the garage after a race incident, and Joshua kind of attacks one of the team mechanics, one of the tire changers. And Sonny's character is like, it happens, don't worry about it. A much more mature, cool approach to it than what Joshua did. But what's interesting is that's not the end of that interchange. A little bit further in the movie, the tire changer character and Sonny run into each other in the garage. And the tire changer tells Sonny like why she appreciates what he said. She asks him not to do it again because of the way she feels that makes her look in front of the team, and that she can't stand up for herself. Now, Sonny is one of the drivers. He's one of the big players on the team. He could just as easily tell the tire changer and tell the mechanic to go like, pound sand or whatever. I stood up for you, don't appreciate it, you ain't great. But that's not what he does. He takes the feedback and he's like, you know what? I didn't think about it like that. You're right. Won't happen again. That's a really big mark of maturity. And also, not only being able to give feedback, but it's just as important to be able to receive feedback. And a lot of people are way more comfortable giving the feedback than they are taking the feedback. That's another one of the really important lessons here is the feedback is not just high to low. It's everywhere. It's not just 360. If imagine it like it's a sphere, it's going everywhere. It's going everywhere within this organization, and everybody can give each other feedback, and it meets those three qualifications. It's accurate, it's genuine, and it's focused on that desired outcome. And these are really critical aspects to keep in mind. In the other aspect of healthy communication, and this is more so of self-control than it is feedback necessarily, is sometimes less is more. There's a press conference, the first press conference they do, and Sonny gets called out by this antagonizing reporter. This is kind of a page out of Ted Lasso again. If you're familiar with that, the Trent Krim character, who's always like kind of trying to embarrass and poke at the Ted Lasso character, this journalist is kind of the same type of role, though not as cool as Trent Krim. Um, and he points out all of Sonny's flaws in front of a press conference being televised globally about how he failed at F1. He's was a failed gambler, lived in his van, failed divorce marriages and divorce, and every single thing that he brings up, Sonny's character is just like, yep, that's it. Brings up another one. Yep. Brings up another one. Yep. And the thing is, when you do stuff like this, you're de-escalating the situation and also disarming the situation. You're disarming your adversary in this engagement. Because most of the time, people are anticipating when they throw out that red meat that you're going to lunge at it. How dare you say this? Whatever. And they get the great footage. They get you to respond the way they want you to for their benefit. Versus when you have the control and you're calm and you're cool about it. You know what? Yeah, that happened. And it just totally disarms the situation. Also, the other thing to keep in mind, and where people repeatedly fail in this today, especially with texting and other forms of digital media, once you say something, the horse is out of the barn. Those words can't be taken back. Even if you go and delete them, they're going to be found somewhere. They can be on some internet archive, the Wayback Machine, something like that. It can come back to haunt you. And people don't think about this, especially in the heat of the moment or when they're highly emotional. It's always better to like, do I want to say this? And if that little voice in your head is like, let's not, or there might be a problem with this, or I know I'm really heated, I'm really upset, take a step back, downshift, say less. You can always come back and add something. You can always come back and have a follow up. But if it's a situation where you're not in control and you might be getting baited into reacting a certain way, acknowledge it. Very basic. Yep. Whatever it might be, how Sonny does in this interaction, and then move on. That way you're not throwing out evidence that someone can use against you. You're not throwing out the little sound clips someone can use in the media and social media against you that can come back to haunt you. So there's lots of different examples of healthy communication. There's lots of great examples of feedback in this movie. It's 2.5 hours. Like I said, it flies by. I've seen it twice. I get something out of it every single time. It is just an amazingly entertaining movie. The cinematography, the filming, the directing, the cast, the story. It's amazing. Go see it if you haven't seen it yet, and look out for these things. And also watch our other videos that I'm putting out. The next one's going to be on mentoring, and then the last one is going to be on desired outcome convergence. These are really important communication topics that also lead into like leadership and professionalism that we don't think about, and they pet them here on a movie screen, on an IMAX if you can go see it. These amazing communication practices and strategies for us to watch and to see how things can work. And hopefully you can take those with you and apply them too. So next video is on mentoring. I'll see you there.